21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
Companies live and die by their access to high quality talent and the talent they need. And in today's world, that's become increasingly difficult. Unfortunately, the information about where they can get talent and how they can attract and especially keep the talent that they want is really poor. And I founded WageScape in order to address that. Now there are ways where you can see, business leaders can see where the talent is, how much to pay them, how skills are evolving. Everything about the labor market is now becoming much more transparent, and it's up to businesses to understand how to take advantage of that to really win in the marketplace. My name's Cary Sparrow. I founded WageScape in 2015 after coming out of careers in engineering, in management consulting, in corporate IT and HR, where I saw and was pretty frustrated with just how important information about jobs and pay is, and how poor the information about that really is in the market. And felt that there really was something that could be done about that. So that's why I founded WageScape, was really to bring more transparency to the labor market. And that's what we've been focused on for the last 9 years. Most business leaders know this. If you want to find out what you need to pay in order to be competitive in a given market, there's several different ways that you can see pay information in the market, but what you realize pretty quickly is that that information is really old, for one thing. It's typically collected, in most cases, 18 months prior to when you need it. And so it's not very relevant in today's market. The other thing that it's not is local. If you run a hotel chain, you're competing with other hospitality services within a couple miles of each of your location. Pay information, if you're lucky, is at the provincial level or the state level, or in some cases the country level. And so it's not really that actionable. When the pandemic happened, all of the labor market considerations went completely out of bounds. And you saw it in the news. There were, pundits and spokespeople that were swearing that everybody had stopped hiring. Well, that just wasn't true. Then you heard others saying that companies couldn't get enough employees to serve the needs of societies. That also was true in some cases, but in a lot of cases it wasn't. We had the data at WageScape to know exactly what was going on, because we built a platform that collects data from around the world, across the web, updates it every single day in terms of who's hiring, what are they hiring for, what are they going to pay for those jobs, how easy or difficult is it to find the talent for that, who is the talent. We could see that every single day, and we knew what was going on in the market. We could see very easily which companies were struggling during the pandemic, which ones were thriving, because there was a whole segment of companies that were thriving, and we could see all of that. And then the pay situation went totally out of bounds. In order to attract talent, companies were finding that they had to pay substantially more than they had in the past. And so all this pay information that was out there that was a year and a half old was no longer relevant because wage inflation had kicked in such a big degree. Advertised wages, speaking in the US now, advertised wages in the US between 2022 and 2023, 2021 to 2023, grew 50% a year, 50% a year. That's what advertised wages did. And any one of us, it's entirely likely that whoever is listening to this, for our entire career, the most we'd ever seen with wage inflation was about 5%. Normally it was around 3%. And so for companies that were set up to manage things, in a 3 to 5% inflationary, scenario, were caught completely off guard. And the folks that helped shape strategies for recruiting, for retention, for pay, had no information that was reliable to go off of. And that's what WageScape was really designed to help with. And then we saw a really big uptick in terms of demand for our market intelligence. One of the things I saw when I founded WageScape was I have an economics background academically. So when I went to school for business, I was really studied a lot of economics, and I knew that when you have a really big market and you have really bad information about what's going on in that market, then you've got a lot of inefficiency, and that's true. Anyone who works in any organization knows that when it comes to hiring and retention and setting pay policy and so forth, there's a huge amount of inefficiency with that. And the other thing that people don't really see is that when you've got really bad information and you're really stifling innovation in that market, people can't see opportunities to not only do things more efficiently, but to create whole new services and capabilities. And you see that in lots of other examples. The financial markets is probably, the most obvious example there. But my view was that was the opportunity for the labor market to drive, better information, much more real time, much more granular information, much more actionable information about what's happening with jobs and pay and skills and hiring and the availability of talent, that sort of thing, would lead to much better efficiency and also great innovation. And we're already starting to see that. We're already starting to see that there are new ways for companies to compete for talent, new ways for individuals to chart their careers, new ways for people who are investors to anticipate the outlook for businesses based on the strength of their hiring and retention capabilities and their ability to adapt the composition of their workforce to meet evolving needs. All of those are possible through the greater transparency that's been coming in through WageScape and others over the last probably 10 years. Imagine a situation where you can see everything about the hiring practices of your competitors. And going beyond that, you can see everybody who's competing for your talent, for the talent that you need. In the past, that wasn't possible. In fact, in a number of countries, there were laws that prevented that kind of sharing, antitrust laws. But there's an awful lot of information that's available online. And what we do at WageScape is we consolidate all of that down into one platform. So the uses for that are really very, very broad. I mean, here's a couple of examples. If you're in the business of staffing, for example, you need to know what's going on in the markets that you recruit for. You need to know what the pay is for the jobs, but you also need to know who to go, what your clients are hiring for, because they're probably not using you for all of their hiring. So the ability to see all the jobs they're hiring for is a significant strategic advantage for you. The ability to come in to your clients and work with them and say, here's what's going on in your markets with the jobs that you're hiring for from a pay standpoint and who the competitors are for those jobs is a big strategic advantage for you and a big differentiator because you're bringing a huge amount of value to your clients. The ability to align hiring strategies and pay strategies with what's exactly going on, because what's going on in London would look different than what's going on, out in Birmingham, for example, for specific kinds of jobs, and in other types of jobs, it could look exactly the same. For the ability to come in and help clients shape their strategies so that it's different where it needs to be and it's keeping up with their competition or leading the competition so they're not caught blinded. That's examples of, in the staffing space, what transparent labor market intelligence can do for you. And we can just keep going on for this. We've got a number of clients that are relatively large retailers, and some of those clients are using our data now to set up alert systems so that if anybody in any of the locations where they have operations starts moving pay beyond what our client is paying for their employees for any given position. They get immediate alerts. And so they're able to see this is what's happening in that specific market and evaluate immediately whether or not they may need to make adjustments to their pay practices or their hiring messages or whatever in that market. So the companies now are able to get much more proactive and much more tough from a competition standpoint, much stronger from a competition standpoint in terms of being able to serve the markets that they're in. Instead of just reacting, this is what typically happens, that something happens in a location, maybe a competitor moves in or somebody gets hired away and they get this great salary package, and then that becomes the point of panic for the organization because we're out of touch with what's going on in the market. And there's nothing beyond anecdotes to serve that notion. So there's lots of tension, there's lots of back and forth, lots of heat that's generated by not knowing what's actually going on in the market. And our clients are using our data to get everyone on their management teams on the same page about what's happening with the hiring situation, with the availability of talent, with the pay situation for all the jobs. And so they're able to not just bring kind of a source of truth to the conversation, but they're able to anticipate the conversation beforehand. They're able to give their managers proactively a view of what's happening in a way that's really actionable so that they can be much more adaptive when changes happen. Anytime you're adopting kind of a new way of looking at the world, first of all, that's a big change. You're asking people to change the lens that they use to see the world. In our case, we're bringing a much more granular lens. I mean, a lot of people will remember the change when television and video went to HD and how amazing that was. And now we just kind of take it for granted, right? But when it first came out, it was a big shift. This is a big shift because now you're talking about needing to change your decision-making processes around new data that's presented in a new way. Well, we had to set up our company in order to help our clients with that change. So I have a background in consulting leadership and consulting. So the idea of not just consultative sales, but consultative services is kind of ingrained in the way that we do things. But we don't deliver cookie cutter products to our clients. We deliver access to a platform that allows them to see data that supports the questions that are meaningful to them. And those questions vary across all types of organizations. So we had to set ourselves up in order to be able to help our clients translate the data that we have available to them into whatever is most meaningful to how they run their business. And in every case, it's really interesting. The one thing that's kind of the same across all of our clients is that they go through an adoption curve. They start off with a small group of people that see the value, the potential in much more transparent information about jobs and pay and so forth. And when they start working with our data, they have a lot of questions about how that compares to the data that they're used to working with. And very quickly, they get used to working with it. These are folks in finance, in compensation, in recruiting, on the trading desks for investors, in departments, in universities. We have lots of different types of users for our data platform. But then what happens is when they start to get used to it, they have to bring their own clients along. Right? They have to bring their own leadership teams along. They have to bring their own literal clients along that journey and talk about the value that they're equipped to bring. And so we support that too. We have to be there with them to not just be effective analysts with our information, but also to be effective advocates for the intelligence that they can provide to their own clients. And so, the hard skills around making sure that the data is comprehensive, accurate, understood, is part of what we had to do to build our our data platform. But in terms of successfully engaging and growing our client base, we also have to be really good at helping people understand how to apply it, not just within their own teams, but in a way that makes a big difference for their own clients. We're still in relatively early days. Organizations are still becoming aware of and learning how to take advantage of real-time labor market intelligence. And we're helping with that. If I were to look ahead 2 or 3 years, if you are a leading organization, this is something that you're already looking at. If you're not already looking at how real-time labor market intelligence can help you compete better for talent, you're going to start feeling that you're behind. So I see more and more adoption for this type of intelligence, and that adoption occurring in several different ways. One is that anyone with teams of analysts, this is going to be an essential data source, an essential market intelligence source for your team going forward. Anyone who provides services and technologies to organizations, this is something that you're going to want to build into your services and your technology. You want to make it easy for your clients to see the market implications of what's going on with real-time intelligence. So if you're in consulting, you're going to want to bring in real-time insights that differentiate you and help create new service offerings. If you're in the application space, you're not going to have your clients deal with multiple applications to see what's going on in the market. You're going to want it all in your application, in a way that's meaningful to you. For us, that's great, right? Because we want to be the source of that intelligence. We have a really, compelling leading platform for real-time labor market intelligence on a global basis that covers all the dimensions of the labor market. And so we're already, seeing kind of that next step of adoption in the market come to us. And we see that growing and growing over the next 3 to 5 years. We have an extremely optimistic outlook there. We feel like there's a real wave here that we're well positioned for, and we're working really hard to make sure that we keep that position. Everybody asks me how AI is driving innovation in our business. And the reality is it is driving innovation, but not quite as much as people think, and not necessarily in the ways that people think. They're like, well, AI should be able to tell us what's going on in the market. AI models have to be trained. They need a source of truth in order to be trained. Otherwise, you run into real problems. And as a business, we start with a focus on show us the evidence of what's actually happening in the market first. Right? So we consolidate data from over 150 countries. That number keeps going up. The way that they capture data, the way that, about jobs and pay and so forth is different from one country to another. But we start with what's being generated locally in terms of information. Where we use AI is we use AI for efficiency to help us consolidate the information that we collect into one common platform. And then the other thing we do is if we're able, for example, we're able to get pay data in the US on 70% of the jobs that we track, and we track about 80% of all the market. So a huge sample size and a huge proportion of those jobs that we get pay data on, but there's still 30% that we don't. And so we use AI to help fill in the gaps there, but we're always really clear in the way that we structure the data about what's coming from AI and what's coming from the source. And like I said, we always start from the source. I see a lot more emphasis going to AI, but I see the best organizations using market intelligence like ours, wanting to know exactly where everything is coming from. And that's how we're set up. We're set up so that we can show you all the way down to kind of the individual job, the individual company, exactly what those companies are saying about those jobs, and not what an AI model thinks that they should be saying about them. A lot of people have questions about real-time market intelligence. You can get some of the answers to that just by going to our website. We publish updates on a regular basis. And you can reach out to us directly. You can reach out to our team at WageScape.com, or you can reach out to me directly, and I'm on LinkedIn, and you can reach me through that.
21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
Imagine a space where triumphs, trials, and tales of entrepreneurship come alive. Welcome to the 21st Century Entrepreneurship Podcast, a gold awarded journey hosted by Martin Piskarik, connecting with listeners in 95 countries and ranking in the top 0.5% of all podcasts. Join our exclusive community, elevate your perspective, and embark on the path to success.